I'll do. Back with 710, 710, whichever you want. Before we start, I'll just show you what the cheeky get Lee, the tech guy, got me. There you go.
Take one.
Take one. How we doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Thanks. I'd like to thank all your subscribers for all the positive feedback. I'm having a bad day with my speech impediment today, so you'll have to excuse me there if my stutter comes through. Yeah, really positive feedback. Surprised me. I expected, 90% positive feedback. I expected it to be the other way around. I'm very, very surprised by it. But thanks, people. I think we can move on this week. We've had my story now. I can't really think of anything else. So if we can move on to addressing what's going on in the jails, or what was going on in the jails, how the system is creating more offenders, creating more addiction, creating more victims inadvertently. It is happening, however. So let's move on to that. Right. First, I'd like to talk about mandatory drug testing, if that's alright, in the prisons.
MDT.
Yep.
I have a little bit of experience, I'll tell you why. Just before I left, last 6 months, they joined MDT up with healthcare staff, which was us.
Yeah.
So basically, me and some of the staff I work, we got dumped on his arse doing the MDT. There were 2 experienced staff. When they weren't there, we were sort of left to his own devices. They like to keep some of it a bit secret, the paperwork and that.
Of course.
So
yeah.
They'd still sort of
manipulate the numbers.
And it was their baby. Do you know what I mean? They didn't want to show us everything. However, for me,
Was it one of the dip tests, or was it sent off to a lab?
Everything. We were doing everything. We were just dropped on his arse. So literally, we'd be given a list. Nobody else on Sunday. 25 people to test. Away you go.
Right.
We haven't been on the course.
Right. Well, you've got MDT and you've got VDT, the mandatory drug testing and voluntary drug testing. I think it was 1995 when they introduced it into the system. I think I was one of the batch of the first inmates to be tested, and it was originally meant for just to get an idea of what percentage of the prison was using drugs. That was the original intent of mandatory drug testing. Just to get an idea. They quickly realised that they could use it as an incentive. So they start, and it's continued ever since, 95 to 20 years now, over 20 years it's continued. But the damage they're doing is that they're turning people to hard drugs in the jail, because cannabis can be in your system for 4 weeks. It can be difficult to flush out. Heroin can be out your system in 36 hours if you're drinking off water.
Watering up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And,
Explain what that is.
Drinking, having a smoke. People who have a smoke of gear, and they'll drink about 8 litres of water straight after, maybe 10 litres, or however much they can fit in, really. And then you're up all night, like pissing all night. Probably next day, if you was to get a piss test the next day, you drank that much water and it's gone through your system, the heroin will flush out, the cannabis won't. And they're over 28 days is the punishment for it. So people who need drugs, people who mainly have come to prison for the first time, and it's stressful, it's a stressful environment, prison. People who might not even smoke weed on the outside might want to take some drugs on the inside, but then they learn that the safest bet would be to have a toot. Now, I'm not saying it's epidemic proportions, but if just one person goes in there clean, and I've seen it happen to a few people, I'm not saying it's a huge problem, but it is creating more victims. I've seen people go in and they've had a bit of gear, and then they've had a bit more gear, and then they've come out after the 3-month sentence or the 6-month sentence, and they've gone and scored gear, and then you have a new heroin addict who's got to go and commit a whole lot more of new offences to feed his habit, and then it just adds to the revolving door cycle of prison, because I think 90% of people in there are repeat offenders. Yeah.
It's pretty big. It's at least, I don't know, 70-80% or something like that.
Yeah. And you know, the prison service have to hold their hands up there to some of that with the drug testing. What I would suggest, and I've noticed that the last video has had 8,000 views, I think, up to now. If those 8,000 people was to send an email to the Home Office, I'm not saying anything would be done, but it's going to get a hell of a lot more done than I could ever get done. You know, they might achieve something about these drug tests. They are creating addicts, not on a mass scale, but like I said, if one of them people turns to the same kind of offending that I did, look at how many crimes they're going to go on and commit, you know, and where did it all start? Well, they didn't want to have a joint because they didn't want to lose an extra month, so they tried heroin instead, and that's how it all started. And I've seen people who've now been in the system 15, 20 years because they didn't want to lose 28 days.
I think particularly now, it was escalating when, look, my last shift was September 5th, 2015, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Spice coming on scene then, they couldn't test for it. He's taught that they have got a test now. I wouldn't know, but you know, it were cheap, it were plentiful. As you probably know yourself, the spice that people were buying £5 a bag, could buy it outside Strangeways in the snide shops.
Yeah.
To the stuff now that people are smoking is nothing like. You know, I've got good friends still in prison service, and drug use has just gone through the roof.
That spice, you can still buy it on Bury New Road, right by Strangeways. Ironically,
Can you?
Oh yeah, where they sell all the counterfeit clothes and everything. Bury New Road. Yeah, they sell that spice there. Personally, I can't. I've never had it. Don't like it. It looks dangerous. The way the videos that I've seen online that people have took in prison of people on spice, it looks disturbing. You know, I read somewhere that possibly up to 60 prison officers have died, not as a direct result of exposure to spice, but relating to exposure to spice, or it's had their health affected. I've heard of prison staff saying that they felt the effects of the drug.
Oh, definitely people, you know, if you go in a cell, someone's unconscious or whatever, like I say, at that time, the last 6 months I were there, we were going on the yard, the exercise yard, yeah?
Yeah.
They were chucking down smokes, cons were doing it, they were getting spice, putting it in cigarettes, chucking it down. You know, them that have got no, see it, pick it up, smoke it, boom. They'd be straight flat on their ass, pass out, and everyone would be laughing. It were happening all the time.
I mean, it changes the ingredients all the time of it as well, so that would probably make it difficult to get on a drug test. But from what I've read, not for human consumption, it's to do with cleaning fish tanks or something like that.
Well, initially, weren't it? It was cork tranquilizer.
Is that what it was?
That's what it was initially. I know a lad who used to breed carp. I remember going to his house. Sorry, I've got a story for everything. He used to go to his house, worked in engineering. He says, "Do you want to see me fish?" Little terraced house. His back garden was it was just covered, tanks, breeding carp. He was sending them all out world, 5, 6, 7, up to 12 grand a pair.
Yeah.
Sending them all out world, and that is initially what it was. The stuff now, you only have to go online and have a look. You know, some of the stuff that people are putting together.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's dangerous. But
Yeah, I know that rat poison goes into the ecstasy that's out today. Rat poison goes into the MDMA because apparently it amplifies. It makes whatever drug you're taking. It apparently makes it stronger. The rat poison. So
it's a dangerous thing. You know, at worst, we talked about this lad. Lad took his own eyes. You know, he did that.
What?
He smoked spice twice.
Yeah.
He ended up on the healthcare. I reckon he got a devil behind his eyes. He was literally jumping off the bed at the wall, no hands, headbutting the wall, knocked himself out. He was one of them, you know, these that are incredibly strong. They had 3 or 4 teams of staff trying to restrain him. They couldn't get in cuffs, couldn't restrain him. But he did that much damage, poking his eyes, when he actually eventually got to hospital, that he lost his eyesight. He'd done nerve damage. He literally got his fingers deep in his sockets.
Jesus.
That was his second time on healthcare in a couple of weeks, smoking spice. That was 215, maybe 214. He's still in hospital now. I know that. One of the lads.
Or...
No, mental hospital. He's still in there. He's lost his eyesight.
Yeah.
You know, that obviously that's the extreme, but it was just, at first it was an inconvenience, and then it just drains everything.
Yeah.
Because they were either super violent or they'd pass out, vomiting.
Yeah.
The signs, blood pressure, all that, you know, he'd end up taking them to hospital or trying to make a decision. The nursing staff were trying to say, do we need to get this guy to hospital or not?
Yeah, they was calling it mambulance at one point, the drug, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was just an absolute joke. But, you know, I've seen lads who I know really well, who I've known 15, 20 years, who've started taking drugs inside through boredom, all this bang up.
Yeah.
He says he's just gone crazy.
So in 214, 215, when the spice, what was your heroin use like in jail then? Was it happening or?
Right, well, when we were doing the piss testing, I'll give you my take on it, right? For me, the actual amount of people who were getting nicked and punished was minimal. A lot of people would go the whole route, you know, you get your testing, you go on your nicking in front of the governor, you could ask for a further test. You could pay for your own test, couldn't you? Yeah, and they take it to district judge.
Yeah.
So when district judge come in, because obviously they took it away from governors that they could give added days, the segregation units were just full of people who'd gone not guilty, and they were full of legal staff, because everyone were getting, not necessarily barristers, but, you know, legal people in.
Yeah.
And when we actually, you know, on the board, the amount of people who got nicked, who were on punishment, I just thought it wasn't working at all.
So, what can be done about it? Well, realistically, and this is what I would say, it needs to be discussed, it needs to be spoken about. No one seems willing to speak about it, but realistically, I would say return to just voluntary testing. Inmates who want DCAT, inmates who want parole, or inmates who want even enhanced, you know, or inmates who want something, use it as an incentive. And you know that they're going to test negative then. It's going to keep your testing numbers down. It's going to save a lot of money on sending the tests off to the lab and legal defences, you know, because it's all legal aid.
It costs an absolute fortune. District judge dates rammed.
Yeah, and I mean, how much does the testing itself cost to go to a lab? It can't be cheap.
The voluntary at Strangeways, I never did any.
No, the voluntaries are not. They're not.
He's dropped off. You know what? Because
they're not pretty trustworthy, them tests.
No, when I started, it was full on. There were 3 staff in there, pretty much all day, every day testing. You know, they had it off to a T, but they would do, wouldn't they? They'd been in the job a long time, got their own little niche. Certainly the last 6 months when we started doing it, whatever, there were no voluntary testing because they didn't have the staff. That job, it just gets shut down like every other job. So if they were short in the jail and there's 2 of you in there, you shut it down.
Yeah.
So the actual I know you have to keep up your figures, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, prison service tell you who you're testing.
Yeah.
At random and all this, but it was...
The prison themselves don't like to get a positive test result. They like to keep the numbers down for whatever reason. They prefer it.
Do you know what? I wasn't in there long enough to say exactly, but what you're saying there, it's very strange how it works.
It is.
You know, the percentage, they play it.
Yeah.
It is actually played, so if the number's high, they might try and do more tests to bring it down.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
They're manipulating it all the
Yeah.
time, and obviously you get penalised if the test.
See, it's not just the inmate who's got consequences there. It's the governor of the jail himself. So then the governor makes decisions which are bent, really. You know, I don't know what decision, but they've got to keep the numbers down. So they don't have the luxury of picking who they test. Like you say, it's like a lottery. The numbers are just spat out the system, aren't they, for the mandatory testing. No rhyme or reason to it. You know, if you was testing people who you suspected for drug use and all right, fair enough. You know, what I'm saying is use it as an incentive. Take away the old mandatory for everybody, because someone coming in on a 6-month sentence who's got to serve 3 months or serve 6 weeks and then go out on a tag, you don't really want to be testing them people, because you could end up forcing them towards the heroin, and then, like I say, creating another version of me, which I've seen happen a few times. But also, they'd save a lot of money. They'd save a lot of money with sending it off to the lab, and the figures would come down. They should use it as an incentive. That's just coming from someone who's been on the receiving end of the mandatory testing. I had a joint going through the resettlement process. It set me back 6 months, and rightly so, you know. But people on short sentences and things like that, I really don't think they should be doing it. But that's that. If anyone's listening who's in a position to change any of it, you know, or to speak to someone who can change any of it, or even to look into it, because the system's failing.
Do you think as a drug strategy it's doing anything?
No,
because that's all there is, isn't there?
It's making it worse.
You know, you've got people testing. There's nothing else. There's nothing in there. All right. Well, no, there isn't.
Well, even you've got a pandemic now, so everyone's banged up.
Yeah, of course they are. So
they are bored, even more bored than they will be normally.
I'll tell you about Spice to give you an idea at strength. I'll add know, like I said very well, I had a proper in-depth, frank conversation with it, and I thought he'd been stabbed up and he slashed. He had a really, really thick bad scar, you know, like something you get from the double blade.
Yeah.
What's that? He said, it's a burn. I says, a burn? He says, yeah. Spice, yeah, took a big hit, passed out at Strangeways, like a lot of old prisons.
On the radiator.
The pipes, they've got 2 pipes, yeah? 4 hours he's passed out on the pipes, full thickness burn.
Yeah.
Woke up. He ended up with a claim because obviously when he woke up, people can say it's his own fault.
I've actually seen someone do that before.
Well, he pressed his bell, officer come, yeah, fuck off, it's not important. Next day, nurse saw it, straight in front of a doctor, straight out to hospital. Yeah? But that's how strong it is.
That could kill you, that could cook your flesh, basically. While you know, because the drugs are that strong, you can't feel it. Especially if you're unconscious, you can't feel it. I've seen the exact thing happen on heroin to somebody. The same thing, big scowl, this was across the face, because they had the face on radiator, but that was on heroin. But the Spice, I can't really speak for that, because I've never tried it. I don't really know anyone who does it, and I've only seen what I've seen on the internet. And like
Well, you know, have you seen there's on YouTube's documentary in Manchester Town Centre?
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Piccadilly Gardens. So they have people in Piccadilly Gardens now. Well, this maybe 12 months ago, who were wardens who were checking on people. They couldn't do anything. There were that many people passing out. They'd be literally leant against the lamppost, out cold. Yeah, they'd all gone from sort of heroin and that. They're all taking that shit. It's a lot cheaper. They were a young kid, an homeless kid, and he basically said, it just helps life pass. You know, you have that bum, 5 hours are gone. Have another bum, another fat.
That particular substance, I'll be honest with you, I don't even think I'd have took it in the jail, because it's not a drug. It's a chemical. It's not intended for human consumption, you know, and so it's not a drug. It's not. It's an industrial chemical. So
I think it's just cheap and plentiful.
I think you're taking a lot of years off your life with it, or you're certainly messing your brain up. We don't know what the long-term effects of it are because we haven't really had the long-term.
No, and like now, you know, they're not smoking it. It's not like green matter like your weed and that. The smoke, it's just spraying it on paper.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. I know. Like back in the day, they used to put LSD on paper, and now they're impregnating paper with the spice. I think they was doing it with that other stuff, bubble.
Well, they are. People say, you know, they're going to get dogs that can sniff it out. They've got a way of testing it and stuff like this. At the end of the day, there's always going to be drugs in jail, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there
A
is.
drug-free wing. Have you been on drug-free wings?
I've been on a therapeutic community, yeah, and
was everything available if you wanted it?
yeah, and everyone on there's being tested. Everyone's being tested, and there's no positives coming back, but yet there's gear on there. You know, so I don't know about, like I say, spice. Don't know. Never not had any personal experience with it. But therapeutic communities, we'll speak about that. The TC.
Yeah, I'd be interested about that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyone who's in a position, you know, to speak to anyone. Lord Justice Wolf is a good person. Is he still alive?
I've no idea. Explain who he is.
Lord Justice Wolf done the report on Strangeways. He actually warned the prison service beforehand that it was going to happen, I believe. Not specifically at Strangeways, but he did put a damning report in about Strangeways before the riots, and he did a report afterwards. Lord Chief Justice Wolf is responsible for a lot of prison reform. He's a big donator to the Prisoners Education Trust. I'll also get around to explaining what they are. You know, if he's still active, I think he was an elderly guy. If he's still active, and anyone could contact him, maybe email. He is a man who's in a position to do something. But I don't know if he's still alive.
I was talking to someone today, very interesting that you should say that, right? So they've done a lot of jail time, a lot of jail. They're quite active, a couple of charities, you know, some of these sort of reform groups. A lot of these mainstream reform groups, these prison reform groups, have got people on them who've never been in prison and are absolutely fucking clueless. Yeah. And whatever they're on them, whether it looks good on the CV, whether they genuinely want to do any good, but they are clueless. And
they're all young.
Well, it's not that, you know. I mean, some have been around a long time, haven't they?
Yeah.
Howard League, how long's that been around? Over 100 years.
Still going.
Over 100 years. Yeah. Reform. Yeah.
Howard League for Penal Reform, isn't
it? So now we've got highest prison population ever.
What is it now?
It was around about 90. Obviously, it's fluctuated. I expect a lot to get out after the pandemic. They're going to be looking at IPPs. I think they're going to look at a lot of people over tariff because there's shitloads over tariff. However, you know, they're on about providing another 10,000 prison spaces, aren't they? That's been discussed in the last 12 months.
So if it was at 82,000 in 2008.
Yeah, I think it's got as high as 90, but they've got the least staff ever, the least number of staff ever, the youngest workforce.
Yeah.
You
People,
know,
the turnover of people in and out, not just staff but inmates as well.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, in fact, 12 months before pandemic, for the last 2 years, they've pretty much been banged up. So some of the figures have gone down. Fluctuation in self-harm, a lot of bullying and that, assaults and everything else, are a little bit lower at the minute than they were. But if you go back to 18, everything were going through the roof. So these reform groups, what exactly have they achieved? Because we've got biggest population, lowest staffing levels, most incidents.
Unfortunately, that's where politics seeps into a system where politics doesn't belong. You know, it's happening with the education system as well. Politics are creeping in there. You know, no place for politics here.
Of course it's not.
It's unfortunate, and it's just, I don't think anyone's ever going to change that. But these charities, the Prisoners Education Trust, who I've just mentioned, a big sponsor, Lord Chief Justice Wolf, that, for anyone who doesn't know, the prison service will only educate you up to the level of a 15-year-old. That is level one and two, maths and literacy.
Yeah.
Won't go any higher than that unless you pay for it. Level 3, which is the A-level equivalent. The only way you're going to do that, well, I don't know if it's changed now, but the only way you could do that back then was if you paid for it yourself or you applied to the Prisoners Education Trust.
And I know people who paid.
Yeah.
The lad I interviewed yesterday, I'm sure he said he'd paid for some coursework. You know, he wanted to take something, so he'd had to pay. Lead a bench screw.
Yeah.
I'm sure he paid for things in order to educate himself when he was going from Cat D.
Yeah. I chose education because, as we spoke about sentence planning the other week, I was in a position where I was given a sentence plan to do courses, but I wasn't able to do any of the courses for another 2 years or something. So rather than spend 2 years moping about, I spent 2 years educating myself. I did a diploma with the College of Counselling in Glasgow. Studied CBT, crisis counselling, bereavement counselling, substance misuse counselling. The Prisoners Education Trust, they will fund you, but for what they ask of you is to have level 2 English and maths before you even apply.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to fund you for a degree level education if you've not even got your level 2 English. So they'll ask you to get your level 1 and 2 English, and then and also short-term inmates won't get anything off the Prisoners Education Trust because courses are ongoing, aren't they? They're long-term things. Mine was 2 years.
Well, you've got to be locked up long enough to get on the courses, haven't you? If you're in long-term. What do you think about, you know, people when they're talking about education again and educating everybody? I used to say, you know, both Forest Bank and Strangeways, Cat B locals, a lot of the lads who didn't want to go to education.
No.
The amount of lads who were put on it and refused to go, they didn't want to, did they?
No.
If the family's sending some money in, they're not interested. You know, it's like leading the horse to water type thing.
But also, there's a lot of people there who don't need it as well. There's people who are highly educated who are being forced to go to level 1. You know, what you would learn at the age of 13, 14. There's people who've got degrees. There's no work in the factory or the workshop or whatever work there is in the jail. Oh, but you can go on education and get £6.50 a week for that. So they don't want to be there. You know, a lot of them don't need to be there. But the Prisoners Education Trust they're quite good. They funded me with all my work because I also shown them the letter of the month which I had in the inside time, so they was quite impressed by that. So they funded my first lot of education, and they basically said as long as you keep completing the courses that you're getting, we'll keep funding them, which was pretty good. Pretty
Fair dues.
Yeah. So I got quite a lot. I got quite a pile of qualifications out of that.
Have you ever been able to use any of them?
No. Although I will be honest, Camborne probation in Cornwall, my old probation officer got my foot in the door for counselling. I was actually offered a job with Devon and Cornwall probation to start off drug counselling, but they wanted a year voluntary, and at the time it just wasn't realistic. It's not cheap living in Cornwall. I couldn't do it. Maybe in the future, but I couldn't do 12-month voluntary. But yeah, that's one occasion where the qualifications, I could have gone down that road, but I chose not to. I got other qualifications like chainsaw, tree surgeon, and a lot of qualifications on machines and agricultural machines. And
Were you working on them?
Yeah. I was, well, when I got to Dartmoor and I got my, not D-Cat, but C-Cat, work outside the prison, just outside the prison.
Yeah.
So you're still a C-Cat, but you only it's not miles away from the prison, it's just outside. So I got a lot of qualifications like telescopic handler. It's $2,000 for that licence. Never used it. But when I got a job with the council after getting out, what I found was they had me through agency, so I was just on minimum wage, and I was working with lads who had contracts with the council, and they didn't have any of the tickets for any of the machines, and they're almost on 3 times the wage that I was on. I had the licences for all the machines, but it's not required. It just was.
Why is that?
As long as there was one person there. To be honest, I don't think anyone had the tickets. To be honest, it wasn't required. I think it was just health and safety that was required, and that was it. So no, they never got used, but they were a good distraction for me whilst I was.
Is that what do you think a lot of people do? They just will do anything they can. So although it's purposeful, it's getting you out of cell, you're learning, you're occupying your mind or whatever. Were you pretty much drug free when you were doing that? Did it help?
Yeah. Well, that for me, the education was it started off as a distraction from all the other stuff going on the wing. So you either do one or the other, or you get involved in all the skullduggery, or you can't be middle of the road. You one extreme or the other. So I buried my head in the education to get away from all the using. On the short term sentences I didn't. On the short term sentences I did whatever.
You won't have time to do anything, would you?
No.
You won't be put on anything if you got less than 6 months, would you?
No, nothing. Education wise, no, nothing like that. So on the short sentences I used drugs, but on the long one, no, I made the decision right at the start not to use drugs. So I had 6.5 years totally clean, except for one joint, which cost me 6 months.
What do you think to the actual across the board prison drug strategy?
It's absolute nonsense. And one of the problems as well, the psychologists that they have in, they're trying to save money, and as I just mentioned, Cornwall probation wanted me to do a year voluntary. Well, the prison service take these people on after unit to do their year voluntary, but to do it in the jail. So don't put a lot of confidence when you know that the people in there teaching all the courses are actually on the first year of study, and it's just like an experiment, I suppose, to them. There's nothing in there that helps the inmate. There's nothing in there that stops drug use. There's nothing in there that prevents drug use. It all seems to be geared for looking good.
Did you have a carrots worker?
Yeah.
Do you know what the acronym stands for?
I can't remember it.
They're a drug worker, aren't they?
Yeah.
And what sort of strategies? I know a lass who finished with that, sadly, because she just got disillusioned with the prison service.
Yeah.
She felt she couldn't give anything. you know, it was just one of them. It was just an endless cycle of seeing people and not actually being able to help them. What would your thoughts be on, right? So 6 month sentence, you're in court and they say, right, we're not sending you to prison 6 months. What you're going to do is you're going to go and work with this guy here who's mentoring you in the community. You need to turn up 5 days a week and you're doing something, because obviously that's 6 months, 16, 18 grand it's going to cross a prison service.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
How would you have reacted, do you think, and the people you knew, because you're obviously in that community, to being offered the chance to do something purposeful Monday to Friday, like going to work, rather than spend 6 months in prison? Because you've already said the short sentences didn't do anything, did they?
Yeah. That obviously would be a better option, but it's security issues, because you'll find that people who use drugs are usually repeat offenders, prolific. They're usually prolific. I'm going to say probably all of them. People who have got addictions in jail and people who use the services like carrots, they're all prolific offenders because of the drug use. So what that tells you is whatever they're doing in the jail's not working, because they keep coming back. But work-wise, yeah, it'd help. But everyone who needs the help is high risk. So you have to find a way around that. Like I say, I was the only person on the resettlement unit who had my history, and it was only through using the legal system to fight, and because I realised early on that that's the only way you can get anywhere. It's the only way you can fight.
Or using legal system to get on
Yeah.
one of these therapeutic communities.
Just to progress, yeah, you've got to make legal threats. And
do you think these therapeutic communities don't have people who are at risk like yourself for ease of operation?
Yeah, of course they do.
Because the success rate is going to be really good. If they pick people who, if you like, are going to succeed, then it's going to look good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it's all about, is appearances. The people on the low risk therapeutic community, everyone on there is pretty much low risk, and everyone had a hidden agenda. So
therapeutic, is it a therapeutic?
Right, let's explain a therapeutic community. Outside of jail, you have rehab, which can be 18 months, 12, 18 months, or even 2 years. Rehab, in jail, they call it a therapeutic community. I think there's one in Dovegate, there's one in Grendon, which is a BCAT, and the other one is in Channings Wood, in Devon. And what it works off, it doesn't work off the 12 steps Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a bit different to that. It's a model of cognitive behavioural therapy, but the model they're using, it was designed to be one-on-one. It was never designed for
group work.
No, it wasn't. So it's counterproductive, and it undermines it. So the therapeutic community, what I noticed was there was always writing about how proud they were of things like, the zero absconding, and I was thinking to myself, you're not really saying much about what they're achieving with the inmates with regards to it. And when I looked into it, the reoffending rates on the main prison compared to the therapeutic community, no difference. There was
really
no difference. They were both exactly the same, the reoffending rates.
So how did they tie that up to make it look like it was successful?
They didn't actually let that information out. It was a prison officer who told me. I got myself off the therapeutic community because I found it to be very contradictory and hypocritical. If I can give you an example, they have classes every day of the week. It's a therapeutic community is a 7-day-a-week thing. You've got things like tuck your shirt in, don't lean on the wall. Now, I struggled with this because you know, it was your responsibility. If you seen someone you didn't know and they were leaning on a wall, you had to pull them up about it and say, you know, don't. I'm pulling you up, antisocial. You basically had to read them the rights. You know, I'm pulling you up for antisocial behaviour, and then it all.
What? How's that helping anybody?
It's not. It's fucking stupid. And the amount of times I try to address it and say, what are you achieving with this? You know, if you go outside and see someone leaning on a bus stop, you're going to get a punch in the face. You know, they go over to him, excuse me, mate, can you not lean on that?
Did they try and make it like, were they trying to make it disciplined, or? I
don't know what they was trying to do.
See, I would think a therapeutic community would maybe have a bit of a more laid back sort of,
No.
you know, you'd think, you know, maybe using first names and sort of, you know, more relaxed.
There was a hierarchy, an official hierarchy. You had phases. You could be induction, orientation. I forget what the final 3 phases were called, but that was the hierarchy. Whichever stage you were, you got to not speak down to people on that, but you got authority over them. You got authority over inmates who were only in the. If you were in orientation and one inmate was on induction, you had the authority over that inmate, and people abused it.
How did that authority work?
You'd see him and you'd pull him up, and then you'd go into a group, and this person would be pulled out and basically humiliated.
Is this by staff or prisoners?
There'd probably be 2 staff and say 12, 15 prisoners there in the group. There was 100 on the wing.
Yeah.
There was 100 people on the therapeutic community, but it was split into groups through the day. So there's like, as you've got one group in one room doing one session, they'd move on and then the other group would come. So it was rotating all day. They like to keep busy. But the punishments they'd come up with was things like, you go down to the kit stores and get a huge massive kit bag of socks and have to put them all into pairs. And can you see where I'm going with this? It's
like well, it's not. I can't even say.
I can't even say it's
infant. I can't even say it's infant school. It's like.
I still can't think of a word for it.
Pathetic.
It's worse than that. It's you know, and.
I'm not understanding this at all.
No.
I am understanding what you're saying, right? So you're in a therapeutic community. What is it? What is the purpose? What are you supposed to achieve?
Well, I assume it's meant to be the same as rehab on the out because it's the same amount of time.
Right.
But the things that I spoke about addressing last week, like an address, having a flat to go out to,
yeah,
that wasn't part of the agenda. You know.
So they're not preparing you to go out?
Nope. There was no resettlement on the therapeutic community. Grendon's a B-cat jail, Channing Wood is a C-cat jail. I was at the stage where I was just about to get C-cat, and they wanted me to go to Grendon, but that was the B-cat therapeutic community, and it's a 2-year course. I'm not going to start a 2-year course in a B-cat jail when I'm about to get C-cat.
No.
So I got moved to Channing's Wood and done the C-cat therapeutic community there. I mean, I'm not I am slagging it. There are people who it's helped. You know, I'll say that, yeah. Well, I would hope that there's people it's helped, otherwise it is achieving nothing. But overall, I don't see what's to be achieved by it, so I signed myself off the course, and I was basically told you're throwing your parole out the window. You know?
Right, so people understand this, right? Obviously, most people start as a Cat B prisoner, don't they?
Yeah.
You come back from court, you're Cat B.
Well, unless you're dangerous, you're going to be Cat C within a day or so.
Yeah, you're going to be Cat C, which is you know, the thing is your risk goes down or whatever. So, this therapeutic community, is it lowering your risk of taking drugs when you get out?
It's meant to be like, you know, everything. It's meant to cover everything. Right down to they'll have you read your life story out in front of 100 inmates.
To achieve what?
Well, in my case, all I achieved was a list of more courses to do and a load of criticism. Is you passed? Well,
Why did they pick up on things and say,
Yeah.
right, you need to address that?
that's exactly what they do, yeah. But what they did was they started saying, because I mentioned I'd had a few fights with people, the people I'd had fights with was involved in the same kind of lifestyle that I was involved in, so I was fighting other criminals. And next thing you know, anger management has come out of the life story. Oh well, you mentioned you had fights, so anger management again. And I told you the grief I'd already been through with the anger management, and it popped up again because of it. So I suppose they used it. They did use it against you. So I started warning people, be careful what you're saying there, because it's it could cost you long term. They didn't like it. There was a lad on there he'd done a six. I didn't actually tell him the education that I'd been doing. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I think I was more qualified to teach the course than some of the people who were actually delivering the course.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it looked that way because it just did. But some people I hope, have done the course and gained something from it. But no, what's to be achieved over 2 years of sitting there, pulling people up for not having a shave, for not having the shirt tucked in, for leaning on a wall. That was the other thing you had to dress in, in your prison shirt that's got the stripes.
Yeah.
And the jeans and your shoes. That's how you had to dress every day, with your shirt buttoned all the way up, tucked into your pants. And
like back in the day.
Yeah, it's
That's how they used to have to be, didn't it? When they were slopping out,
yeah.
60s,
The only
70s.
thing was missing was bed packs, But yeah, they seem to have turned right round and gone back in time there.
Do you know whether they've changed any, or they're still the same sort of?
It was still going about 3 or 4 years ago. I know it was going for quite a few years before I went on there myself, but I think I did 7-8 months on there, and they was using it as, if you drop out, we're going to put a bad word in and you won't get parole. And they pretty much did, and I didn't get parole, but I couldn't tolerate it no more. I just couldn't. It was so double standards. So the example I was give you, there was a class, 2 psychologists, maybe 15 inmates, and they'd singled out this lad, and he was a bit slow on the uptake. Maybe he was a bit loud and a bit obnoxious, whatever. But that's what you're there to address, is it not?
Yeah. Well, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you're there to address, your behaviour. So there's this guy who's done a 6-week counselling course, and suddenly the sun shines out of his ass. For the psychologists on there, he gets special treatment. So this other lad, who's a bit slow on the uptake, they didn't like him. So they've asked him, the psychologists have said to him, can you give us an example of a time in your youth when when you've been, can you give us an example of when you've used discrimination? So the kid answered, yeah, when I was a kid, my dad said, if you ever come back with it and he used the P word, you know what I mean,
yeah.
I'll twat you. Now, his feet didn't touch the fucking floor. He was off the wing within an hour. Why? Racism. They baited him into making that comment, I watched it happen. I was fucking disgusted, to be honest, I told you that when they refused my rottle, they wrote on the reason to be discussed. Well, 15 years later, we're going to discuss it now. So they threw him off the wing for racism. They literally got him to say that. They said, can you give us an example from when you was younger of when you've used discrimination? So he said it, and he was thrown off the wing instantly for racism. So must have been less than 48 hours later, this other kid who had done the 6-week counselling course, also what they had you doing was they'd have plays every morning which you had to write a script to, and inmates would be dressing up as women, and yeah, seriously. Anyone, look it up, ask anyone who's been on a therapeutic community if you don't believe me. So your job of a night time was...
It's not that I don't believe you.
No, I don't mean you.
I'm just.
I mean, anyone listening, you know, ask anyone who's been on a therapeutic community, this is what you're going to find. So over night time, you'd be writing scripts, you know, for the play the day after. So there'd be like 6 plays in the morning assembly, call it that if you want, morning meeting. Yeah, morning meeting, it used to go on for an hour. So this lad had done the 6-week counselling course, all the psychologists loved him, sun shone out of his arse and all that. We was getting ready for a morning play, and he was dressing up as a native Indian, and he said, "Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm dressing up as an Indian, not a fucking..." And then he said the P word, same word that the guy had said 2 days before. So I thought to myself, I didn't like the guy, and he was a grass anyway, people on the main. He was basically hiding on the therapeutic community. But I thought, I'll test this system now, because, you know, what fits one should fit all. So I pulled him on it. You know, I said, that's fucking racist, you know, and I pulled him in the meeting about it.
In front of the psychologist?
Yeah, didn't fucking like it. So I've pulled him on it. He's not been took off the wing or anything, so they took, psychologists have started going up to his cell to give him support. Nobody came to my cell. I was the one who put the fucking complaint in. They were all going up to his cell for support. So at this point, I'm thinking, this is double standards, this hypocrisy. I think it's actually damaging my mental health, to be honest, because it's winding me. I was constantly angry with it. So nothing happened to him. They come to see me, and I said, no, you know, one size fits all. You chucked a lad who needs the help, who actually does need the help. You know, he's a handful on the main prison, but he's put himself on here because he wants the help. You baited him into making a comment just so you could fucking throw him off the wing. Yeah, I said, now I've pulled someone up for making that very same fucking comment less than 48 hours later, and it's all swept under the rug and it's all being hushed up, and you're all up there supporting him, and no one's even asked me for any input on it. You know, I said, so sign me off your fucking course, I'm done with it. Oh, well, this could affect your parole. I said, you know what, stick your fucking parole up your ass now. I am not taking another 18 months or whatever, 18, 15 months of this. Couldn't do it. So I was chucked off the course, but I knew the screws, and they let me stay on the wing, and they got me shipped out to Dartmoor, but they let me stay on the wing, and I got a proper...
So they give you a squeeze, did they, because they were alright with you?
The screws, yeah. The screws who worked on the therapeutic community weren't part of the... They were not part of the therapeutic community.
Did they ever say what they thought about it?
To me, yeah. Out in open, no.
Well, you can't, can you?
No.
In a lot of circumstances.
No, they can't voice your opinion. You know, in something that's meant to be addressing people's behaviour, there's still a lot you can't speak about.
It's I had no idea. I don't even know what to say about it now. I hope people are following this. I thought stupidly that a therapeutic community would be helping you prepare to get out. It just sounds quite pathetic and...
Petty.
Yeah, it's like...
Actually,
it's almost like a test.
Yeah.
It's almost like a test. I couldn't put up with shit like that.
Once, and what you found was that they didn't tell you beforehand that if you started the course and then decided... They told you if you didn't like it and decided it weren't for you, that's fine. What they didn't tell you was, if you decided it wasn't for you, it was going to cost you everything. It was going to cost you your parole and everything. Well, they didn't tell you that.
And more time to you.
Yeah, they don't tell you that when you... I knew it'd happen anyway.
Did you ever have any idea what you signed up before? Punitive, innit?
No,
pathetic.
I didn't. I thought it would be like a rehab.
Did you think what I'm thinking, that it's going to prepare you?
Yeah.
You know, initiatives, strategies.
My main focus was work, qualifications, and money in my pocket. I did achieve that in the end, but not through the therapeutic community, through officers like yourself, who put the neck on the line for me. The therapeutic community, no, it addresses nothing. They had someone in talking one day. They brought an inmate in, and they were saying how, great, turned his life around because he's been on therapeutic community and all that. 10 minutes into the morning meeting, it was clear that he was keeping in a tent in the town centre begging all day. That more or less come out.
Really?
Yeah. So, and they let him carry on for the full hour, humiliating himself, and for me, I couldn't fucking take it no more. I just couldn't take it no more. It was driving me. It was driving me fucking mad. It was, yeah. So I got off there, and the staff knew why. So immediately they give me a decent job down the kit stores, which give me free movement around all of the prison, which I was fine with. And then I got on, like I say, I got onto Dartmoor. But yeah, the therapeutic community. If anyone's watching who's ever been on a therapeutic community, whether it be Grendon, Dovegate, Channings Wood, be interesting to hear what your experiences of it are. What anyone's experiences of a therapeutic community are, because mine wasn't positive.
What would you say? Did you get a lot of nickings when you were in prison?
On the 8-year sentence, I didn't have one nicking.
Nicking, again, where you're placed on report, punished for... So, as prisoners go, if you're getting a squeeze after the lads and lasses that works on there, they're gaining jobs and that, then you're almost a model prisoner, aren't you? You're just getting on with your jail, you're not causing problems.
Yeah. When I come back to Devon to be in the CCAT system, and I knew all the staff, and I'd been up in Nottingham and Parkhurst, and I'd been around the country on the BCATs for about 2.5 years, so they'd not seen me. But Officer Richard Murden, like I said, and a few other officers remarked, like, I'd changed. They said, you changed a lot, you're not, you seem to have matured a lot. I says, well, 8-year sentence seemed to have that fucking effect on you.
Did you? This is a controversial one, not for me and Lee. I've always said, I'm learning a lot more now. It is interesting, this stuff, but I've always said, if a lad my age has done 60 sentences, 2, 3, 4, 6 months, it's obviously not working, is it?
No.
You need to do something else with them. So they're doing a lot of damage when they're out, aren't they?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's the point. I'm not unique. I've just admitted everything.
Shitload. In Strangeways, there must have been 250 people I know who are exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
Short sentences. But nobody seems to have learned.
No, but in also in terms of the amount of crimes that I was convicted for, I'm not unique in that way neither. It's just that they didn't admit it.
It's got a high value on it. The crimes have got high value.
Yeah.
If you nick a TV for £1,000, sell it for 100.
Yeah.
The actual value of the crimes is high, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the fact is, nobody seems to be doing anything.
No.
Your carrots workers, your people in prison.
People are actively sweeping it under the rug. I know that, but I can't see anything positive.
The detox nurses, the carrots workers, for me, were all very sad people. I don't mean they were sad individuals. That lass I know is lovely.
Yeah.
When I say sad, I don't think they're happy in the jobs because they knew exactly. The detox nurse, all they did was give out methadone all day.
Yeah.
If I were a nurse, I'd want to be doing proper nursing. When you looked at them, they were all miserable.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's the fucking job you're doing.
You're
handing out methadone twice a day, checking IDs and that. It can't be gratifying or... And then, it's not that, but it's same people.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to joke about it. Or I won't be... And boom, they're there.
If you put them through a detox and then you've let them out and then 3 months later they're coming back in with an addiction again, it's not working.
I tell you what, I don't know whether this happened, but at one bit, certainly maybe the last couple of years I were there, they were on about re-toxing people.
What's that?
Because people, we had quite a lot of deaths from heroin. So people get out, they'd take too much, they didn't have the tolerance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was talk...
Up in the dose?
Yeah, of giving... Yeah, so when they went out and scored or whatever...
So there's an increase in the dose before release?
They were talking about it.
That's fucking disgusting.
They were talking. I'll tell you what, there was a lad we had on healthcare.
That's shocking, that.
There was a lad come on healthcare. I knew him quite well. He was what I'd call a functioning addict. I've known him as a YP. He'd always worked. He had a missus. He'd been with her a long time, but obviously, you know, he can always tolerate so much. And he had 2 kids. And part of his conditions when he got out of seeing his kids, that he was drug-free and he were on methadone. He didn't use anything else, he was on methadone. And he come on healthcare. So straight away, what are you doing on here? You could have a talk, conversation like this, you could have an intelligent conversation. Like I said, it always worked, always. He says, I've come on here to detox. I says, what do you mean? He says, I'm coming off methadone. I says, why are you on here? He says, because I've stopped today. So he got...
What, of his own choosing?
Yeah, he was on 60 mil. Is that quite an high dose?
Yeah.
Right, so he's on 60 mil. He's been on it a long time. He's seen the detox doctor. I think he got 3 months to get out. It might have been 4 months. He's seen the detox doctor and said, right, I need to be drug free when I get out of here, as I can't see my kids. That includes methadone. Yeah. And the detox doctor said, when you're out, 3 months, we can't detox you in 3 months. We can't get you off it in 3 months. He said, what do you mean? You know, I want you to titrate me down. He says, we can't do that. He went, oh, bollocks. So he was on healthcare. He was ill. He didn't cause no problems. He was ill for a week. You know, painkillers, paracetamol, nothing else. Come off it. Yeah. So for me, the doctor just saying that's not enough time to get you off it or whatever.
And I'm a bit taken aback by what you just said about.
I'm not saying they were doing it, but the discussions
that doesn't surprise me.
The discussions were about re-toxing people or
well, actually, you know, I've tried to get pain relief off of my doctor and been refused, and I've been to one of them services and asked for pain relief from no, we don't do pain relief, go to your GP. I said, I've been to the GP because of my history.
Are you a registered addict? With what I mean by that is, will your GP have you down in his notes as an addict?
No.
No.
My history, yeah, but they know that I've not been in services for like 30 years, not used any, not had any prescriptions for anything, or I've just not used the services. What I will say is, when I said when we did the first video, I said to people, I'm clean now. What I mean by that is, I am not currently using Class A drugs. I have relapsed multiple times since I've been out in 2008. I've not been clean since 2008. I'll not lie. You know, I've relapsed multiple times, not to the point of committing crime. I don't think I'm capable anymore. But yeah, I have relapsed a few times. So I'm not here to judge or blow my trumpet or anything like that. We're only human. But that what you've just said has completely fucking shocked me. Upping the fucking dose. 60 mil of methadone. If I drank 60 mil of methadone, it'd probably kill me. If you're not used to it.
Did you take methadone in prison?
I've only ever once had methadone, and the detox off it was so severe, I'd never been near it since.
Right. So, do you think methadone's a good idea in the community for people?
No, because it's harder to detox off.
Right. There's what should we say? How should we say it? I've talked about this before. It's very difficult to not difficult.
Do you know? Back in the day, the best thing the prison service did was what they used to do to me. 2 paracetamol, go fucking get in bed, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And nobody died, you know. But what happened was, they actually compensated all the inmates. All got $3,000 each, who had been forced to go through detox. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was retrospective. It went back 3 years.
Yeah, I remember that.
I missed it by 3 months. No big deal. But yeah, that's what they were doing. human rights.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
You know,
That was during my time, that, weren't it? I definitely remember that.
that was 2006.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
You see, when I were at Forest Bank, I saw Methadone come in. Before that, they had the DF118s.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so they'd come in. It was either 5 or 7 days. Do the rattle on E-wing upstairs.
Yeah, I've done a Strangeways.
Yeah,
detox.
so they do the rattle, but what I did say, a good percentage of them lads who come in and did the rattle, when you saw them going out 12 months later or whatever, they put weight on, they were going at gym, they looked better. As people who were addicts, for me, that was a time to get hold of them. When they come out of there, whatever you're going to do with them, do it then.
That's the time when they're most vulnerable.
Lots of them. Then Methadone come in.
Do you know these dealers wait outside the jail gates?
Oh, fucking...
Strangeways.
It's like hostels. It's like hostels, isn't it?
There are dealers waiting outside the fucking gates of Strangeways to serve lads up who are coming out.
Methadone come in. Overnight, it was ridiculous. We had a doctor, she was from an ethnic background. I remember one of the lads, I had to escort him in. He was a bad lad, but I got on with him. Escorted him to this doctor. I was struggling to hear what she didn't speak very good English. So she's talking, she started raising her voice. So he's saying to me, Miss Samworth, what she's saying, I can't tell. I said, I don't know. I can't tell myself. Anyway, this happened for a month. She basically signed a third's probably exaggerating, a lot of the jail up. So people were going in who'd never taken it. Yeah, I'm an addict. Bam, 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 signed them all up, shitloads overnight on Methadone. Yeah. Private sector led the way with Methadone. They obviously got bonus points, being a private sector for bringing it in. Human rights again, you know, you're looking after people properly. She got a 6-figure payout from Forest Bank because she left. She claimed the company were racist or whatever, but you couldn't, at the end of the day, you got a doctor, a detox doctor, and nobody could tell what she was saying. But on the Methadone then...
That's when politics will start affecting things.
Well, of course it does. But then, at Strangeways, there were a lot of drug-related deaths. When they got to coroner's court, they weren't drug-related deaths. No death in custody is... It's not... I know people now who were taking Methadone and anything. They'd take Methadone, subbies, they'd take heroin, they'd get your Buscopan and crush it up and smoke that. They take tramadol and everything, and there were a lot of drug-related deaths. Yeah, but never ever, you know, it was never mentioned that Methadone. They're looking at other things, looking to blame the prison service if people are taking drugs. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He didn't say this guy's died because he's OD'd. You know, they're going back 12 months. And
the amount of people that got out and OD'd on the first day out because of the tolerance. Yeah, I understand what you're saying there about the re-toxing. What they've realised is that they're getting a high percentage of inmates. And I know a couple of lads who died on the day of release because they got out and they inject on the first day of release. The body's not used to it because they've been detoxing. And they overdose and die. Yeah, that was a big problem. So that must be why they now think that it's a good idea to get the tolerance back up. To, you know,
I don't know whether it ever brought in, but I also
interesting to find out.
We had the worst detox on healthcare. Obviously, they had a detox wing, but the ones that were hardcore and the alcoholics come onto healthcare. Yeah. I found the detox doctors to be, obviously, they were obviously all on big salaries, but they were 100%, you couldn't say anything about anything. Like the lad who wanted to come off it, you know, no. You know, when he said, all right, I'll stop it, the doctor went like, all right, well...
I'll give you something to help.
We'll reduce, yeah, it was just like...
no sleepers or...
No.
So you have someone who wants out of the revolving door. You have someone who's trying to get out of the cycle, and the system says no. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
So it's down. Like I said, it's ultimately down to you yourself. 3 months is probably just enough time to detox off methadone. Did he detox?
Yeah, he did. He come off it. He come off
Of
it.
his
I
own-
hope he got on well.
Of his own accord?
He stopped on healthcare. He was obviously quite ill. He stopped on healthcare. I don't know. It might have been on there a week, might not have been on a week. However, I saw him around the jail before he got out. You know, and had chats and look, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right, Miss Sam. I'm looking forward to getting out. He actually mentioned something about MDT, drug testing, that his last month or whatever, he wanted to get tested every week, so he got the certificates, but they couldn't do it. You know, there were no voluntary drug testing. Anyway, yeah, he got off it. I don't know what happened to him.
Well, if he's got the resilience to force himself through a methadone detox while he's actually surrounded by drugs, then I'd say he probably did well. I'd say he probably achieved whatever he set out to achieve, hopefully.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Again, it's not related to prison. In my life, when we're talking about heroin, in my life, I can say now I know 2 people who were heroin addicts, who both got to probably the point where, you know, they're using that much, they're going to die or whatever. I would say they certainly 20 years, both not being there, both drink, not alcoholics, you know, socialise, drink. One of them, I still see a weakness, that a crisis in their life it could probably go that way.
Yeah.
The other one, very strong, not a chance ever of going back there. And I find it, I don't understand fully just how powerful it is. Like you said, you can relapse. I don't understand, you know, whether it's psychological, whether it stays with you up here.
Yeah, it stays with you for life. Some people are different than others.
But what would make you right now? Do you think you'd ever relapse again, or do you think it's?
I've learnt my lesson about saying no.
And what could lead to that? Do you know what I'm saying? If there were a family tragedy or something, could that?
My gran died, and during COVID, that triggered me. Cost me a lot.
Did you relapse?
Yeah. They took her in hospital. She didn't even have fucking COVID, but they won't let anyone see her.
Yeah.
You know.
That's tragic.
She fucking died in there, and she had, you know, she was 90 and a heavy smoker, you know, so she'd had a good innings, but she asked, no, leave me at home with my family.
Yeah.
And they fucking scooped her off, and it was fucking, you know, what my mother's gone through with that. She's still crying over it, and a year later. Fucking sad, man, you know. So yeah, something like that could trigger your, yeah, I need to be stronger, you know. Would I say that it could never happen again? No, I'm never going to say that because I've said it too many times.
It's tragic. Rip your gran, but that has been an awful.
It could be anything though that triggers, you know. It could be an argument with the missus. It could be an argument. Do
you drink socially?
Not much, really. No. I have gone through phases of hammering the gin and tonic, like, but not really. No, I'm not really a drinker.
Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult for somebody, I'm quite sure,
to understand.
You know, I used to say fucking smackheads, and you know, the language. I don't think should be offensive. You know, if somebody wants to say I'd eat a smackhead.
Whatever, yeah.
You know what you mean, don't you?
Yeah.
However, the understanding. There were a couple I knew when I used to play rugby. I talked about these before. We're at their house one day, and they both sort of said, "Oh, we started using it weekends." So you know when you're having a drink, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Heroin?" Yeah, listen, it's true this. So I said, What? Fucking hell. No, we're in control. Cut a long story short, 6 months later they split up. Not a good break at all. And they've been together since school, and 6 months later one of them's dead, and then the other died within 6 months. And I still can't get my head around it now.
And you don't know what triggered it?
What? No.
It was just like, oh,
I've no idea. I've no idea. Again, a mate's brother were out one night, common side in Sheffield, Walkley. There's loads of pubs. We're on a pub crawl. It's Friday night. His brother, I didn't even know he'd used heroin. His brother was 26. He was a university lecturer. His missus were a university lecturer. They had 2 twin kids, young. Yeah, nice house, nice living. That night, his brother, who were my mate, and him had a ding dong. This is what he says, got off to score. And again, I'm like, didn't think nothing about it, we're bladdered. About 4 weeks later, comes to the house, opens the door, comes in with crash helmet on. I said, why aren't you taking the helmet off? Shaking his head, takes the helmet off, crying, what's up? Our kid's dead. His missus found him in the bathroom with a needle stuck out of his arm. I'm like, what did he just... He'd been 10 years, up to 16 used, educated himself, university lecturer, good standard of living, everything, and I still can't get my head around that.
No, you're never going to get...
We were having a good night.
If people could get their head around it, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? If people could understand it, then...
Well, do you think anyone who's never used understand it, really?
No. I don't think it's possible to understand it unless you've done it. Because I can't put it into words. And also, it sounds, woe is me, you know, it sounds like you want sympathy, or it sounds like, you know, you're blaming, trying to place the blame elsewhere. So, you know, and there's a certain stigma attached with the label of smackhead. So, I can't, no, I've not got the answers to that, no. But
over to you, yeah, crack on.
But it is a big problem in the fucking prison, or it was a big problem in the prison service when I was there.
I think spice is the...
Yeah, that seems to be more pressing.
You know, they're on about getting a test for it. You don't need a fucking test.
The ingredients change all the time, though.
Well, yeah, but the bloody half the population's on it or whatever. It's a massive, you know.
Right.
Do you not think that if we go back to when spice was a £5 a bag, green material or whatever, instead of like making it illegal, the government should have maybe legislated and controlled it? Or do you not think that as soon as it went underground, people were off, weren't they? Just
people say that when you ban a drug, it just makes people want it more. So
well, that's what I'm saying. You know.
See, I can't speak for spice, but looking at what the effects it has on people, I can't understand why anyone would want to feel like that. I mean, heroin don't make you behave like that.
Like Frank said, get up, have a joint, it's dinner, have me dinner, have a joint, it's tea, have me tea, watch a film, have a joint, that's it, my days.
I've heard that, someone said.
I don't think it's cliche, I think that is what people are doing.
Yeah.
They're like sleeping the sentence away now.
Literally,
It's cheap and plentiful.
Yeah, I've heard people say fucking 2-year sentence went just like that. And I'm saying, well...
I'm thinking the fallout in years.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, it don't fucking look like it went just like that, mate. It looks like you've gone a bit just like that. Like, but spice, I can't really speak about something that I'm not experienced on, but drugs in general, yeah, they're always going to be in the prison system, so deal with it. Stop trying to stop it, because you're never going to stop it, and address it. Go back to fucking forced detoxing, because there were people who...
They won't do that, will they? Because
No, they won't. They've given $3,000 out to thousands of inmates for being forced to go through a detox. But you know what? The amount of people that it put off going back, because that's the first time they've been forced to detox. You know, it did actually prevent.
So, oh wow, yeah. So yeah, I never thought about it like that.
It was preventing. You know, it was. I couldn't give you a percentage, but there were people who come in and they stopped using drugs and they stopped committing crime because the detox that they went through was fucking hell.
But what do you think, like, a good for a country or drug strategy would be? For instance, raves. I've never been to a rave, but
I do a lot of raves.
do they still have? Do they still test your ecstasy? My friend said at one bit they start. You know, he went some
Oh,
big
the clubs and testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still do
So
that. Yeah.
you've got legit stuff. It's not
Yeah.
corrupted or anything like that. What do you think to that?
Good
If
idea.
people are going to take it,
They know that. I mean, the O2 Academy in Leeds, they do that. I don't know. I know they do it when the raves are on. I don't know if they do it for the heavy metal gigs because they have heavy metal gigs there as well. I don't know. But when the raves are on, there's a room you can go to have your pill tested to see whether it's.
do people use it?
I've never used it, but that's because I've known what I was getting, and I've had it before. I knew it was all right. I couldn't imagine using it, to be honest. Going to a room and saying, "Yeah, check my pill out, see if it's kosher."
Bit of mank slipping in there.
I couldn't imagine doing it.
What do you think to like these drug strategies where they're giving out like pharmaceutical grade heroin? Countries have tried that.
Well, it seems to have got the crime rate down. It'll achieve that because some countries they give them heroin.
Yeah.
I don't agree with giving them the means to inject it because you can smoke heroin. You're risking overdose by injecting. I don't think you can.
Could you inject?
Only towards the end. Only when I thought I was looking at life imprisonment and I was trying to kill myself. Then I injected, so it was for about a month. But the drug strategy, best thing I can say is go back to the old days, make them detox, and you've got a percentage that weren't coming back. So they probably helped put the crime rate up. The minute they started giving every inmate, anyone who's been through a detox, it must be a big number. Any inmate who'd been through a detox in the last 3 years, who was forced to go through a detox, automatically got $3,000 compensation. So if there's 90,000 inmates, I probably hazard a guess that at least a third of them got $3,000. So, but no, you wouldn't remember much in the paper about it or anything.
No,
like that.
I just remember at the time when it come out. It just touched on it, didn't it? A few places it weren't.
There was a lot on the inside time about it, and there was a lot of talk about it inside the system, but there weren't much discussing it in the media. It's like every year you get these Christmas fucking dinners. You get the Christmas dinners in the jail, and the Sun and the Star get hold of the menu, and what it says on the menu is not what you're getting served up in the jail. You know, it'll say. On the menu, it'll look like a proper fucking tasty Christmas dinner. When you've got it on your tray, it's slop, basically. And every year they're regurgitating the same menus. You know, that's newsworthy, but what's really affecting people doesn't make the news.
Sadly.
No. But yeah, that side of it, offending, that got offended, definitely, without a doubt. If just one inmate on that detox wing stopped doing what I was doing, that's a lot of victims that are not created. That's a lot of crimes that are not committed. I don't know what the percentage was, but there were people who it was working for who stopped using. Now I think people are not scared of going in jail because they know they're going to get their habit fed as soon as they're not going to be ill. So they're going to get is it Methadone they're giving out now?
Yeah.
They're going to get.
Well, it's still, I don't understand it. I know what subbies are, obviously Subutex.
Yeah.
Some end up on subbies and some's on Methadone. I don't know what the criteria is, why some are on subbies and some are on Methadone.
Well, apparently, Subutex cancels out the effects of heroin because it's a synthetic opiate. So apparently, if you just taken some heroin and you then took a Subutex, you'd be really ill. You'd go into
Would it be like overdosing?
No, it'd be like going into instant withdrawals.
Oh right, okay.
Because I don't know how it works, but for some reason the Subutex, that's why people went on it, because if they had a Subutex, they couldn't go out and use gear because they go into instant withdrawal. I'm not sure if it works because I've never had not been on Subutex, but each to their own, you know. Whatever helps them get through it. If they can detox, like that guy in Strangeways who detoxed himself off methadone, if he went through that, then I'm
Well,
sure,
he got the drive, and he had a purpose.
yeah, then
He wanted to see his kids.
yeah, he got the motivation.
He did say, you know, maybe I should have mentioned it, but he said, I would have thought 3 months they could have got me off this shit, but bollocks to it, I'm going to do it anyway, and he did, so.
Looking for the fair play. Yeah, fair play. That's what I had to do, but it was fight the system. So that's that. Anyway, drugs needs looking at, doesn't it? And something needs doing.
Definitely.
What you mentioned, the violence, the sugar water. Have you gone into detail of what that actually does?
No.
Inmates get pretty medieval with the violence. They get pretty fucking creative, don't they? With it.
Yep.
The weapons, you can get a toothbrush, and they'll melt the end of the plastic toothbrush, and they'll put 3 razor blades in it. And the effect that has, when you slash someone, you can't stitch the wound up because you've got 3 stripes. So they've got it. If it's going to be a really bad scar for life. But the boiling the sugar water is fucking evil, man. I've seen it done. I've literally seen someone's face come off in their hands. You know, they'll get a bucket of fucking boiling water, tip 1 or 2 bags of sugar in it, make sure it's tight, and dash it full force in someone's face. And the effect that has, it's like hot tar. It keeps burning. It doesn't lose temperature. It keeps it.
Oh yeah, sugar.
Yeah, did you not know that's why they did it?
I thought it just, well,
it retains its
thinking
temperature.
about it, yeah, obviously it sticks, doesn't it?
So they're not stupid, you know. They've got a bit of scientific knowledge there, but it's like hot tar. When it keeps burning, so it keeps bubbling, so the burns are a lot more severe. I seen it throw over someone's head, and he put his hands on his face, and literally his cheeks slid off his face.
Ooh.
It was fucking horrible. And they keep doing it, you know. Stop.
I will say, other than people with sort of AIDS and Hep B throwing bodily fluids around, the thing that did terrify me was boiling water.
Yeah. Because, and I've seen it done, you don't see it coming.
No.
Because if you're seeing it coming, you duck, obviously.
Yeah.
They'll get someone to distract you.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're looking away. And they throw it with force. And whereas boiling water, when it's thrown over you, boom, it's cooled down instantly.
Yeah, of course it
the
is.
Sugar water doesn't cool down. It keeps on burning until you get cold water on it and get it off. So a lot of damage is done with that. Pool balls in socks in Winchester. I seen a guy get a pool ball in a sock, and the pool ball went halfway in his skull.
Left an indent. I've seen an indentation in someone's head.
Yeah.
Where a pool ball, whatever it were, tin of tuna.
Yeah. Well, seeing that, you know, for all them years, it had an effect on me. You know, I not anything that's turned me violent, but I have flashbacks about that, and it didn't even happen to me. You know, it didn't even happen to me, and I have flashbacks over seeing it because I've seen it.
Well, it's when people, you know, show you things and that, and Clara, you know, there's been plenty of prison documentaries now, there's shitloads on YouTube when they've been inside. And like the weapons, people always recoil when they're looking at the weapons. But it's every prison, isn't it? Where it's America, Brazil, a UK prison.
Yeah.
Improvised weapons, stabbing weapons, blades or whatever. They're everywhere.
Yeah. All you need is a plastic toothbrush and sharpen it. You know, they get pretty creative, and like I said, medieval with the weaponry. I mean, fucking hell, that's back in the day. That hot tar off the fucking castle roof and all that, or, you know, whatever it was. But Yeah, the violence is not. It never made me violent, but I can see how I can see how it would make some inmates violent. How they just accept it and start behaving like that themselves.
Well, a lot of it's underground, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
It's usually over drugs. Usually.
Yeah, and it's in cell. You know, I've seen come across some lads who've been badly assaulted in cells. You know, stamp marks,
Yeah.
battered.
And a lot of it, police are not involved.
If it's in cell, you know, there was a guy, bless him, an old guy died at Forest Bank. I don't know his name, but you know, bless his family and all that. Two lads basically went in and took a very small amount of burn off him, and I won't give you a description, but they used the cell furniture to. It was a mess, and died. They knew they'd done it, but you know, there's no camera evidence.
No one got convicted.
No one got convicted. Very, very difficult.
So someone died for a bit of tobacco.
Yeah, an older guy as well, in for nothing too serious. It is a dangerous place.
Fucking disgusting, really, isn't it? That.
You know, that's why the violence is down now.
You know, what was his crime? Did it warrant death? I don't think so. Whatever it was.
I don't want people to think going in prison that, you know, this is a regular occurrence, but some people are ruthless, aren't they?
It also depends on what jail you're in as well. And it does happen in a lot of the locals.
Yeah, locals can be quite rough because you've got a very diverse and mixed population, aren't you?
People are in and out, they're unstable. So anyone going into jail for the first time is going to go to a local.
Well, people always ask me what advice would they give. Do not borrow anything off anyone.
Yeah.
Don't take anything off everyone because everything's got a price. And just be a bit humble and try and keep your head down. Because there is, when I think back, you know, there's plenty of people who come in prison who were sort of like gentle folk who you've got to know over a period of time. You know, a lot of the lads who are mentally unwell who get locked up for like, you know, police assault where they resist arrest or whatever, go through prison, you know, they've never been assaulted or anything like that, but, you know, there is a percentage, dark world, isn't there, if you start getting involved in drugs and borrowing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my 8-year sentence, no violence, no nickings, one piss test positive for weed, but I went to, you know, for me, I mean, even on my 6-month sentences, I was getting 3-4 nickings for wiring up to the light, wiring my radio up to the light and ceiling, stuff like that. But on the 8 years, there was no violence and no nickings. That's only because I weren't around the drugs.
Did it work for you? Did the 8 years work?
Yeah.
How many?
Not in the way that it rehabilitated, man.
I don't. Here we go with rehabilitation.
I don't even know what that fucking means, to be honest.
For me, I will say this before we mention. I even use the R word. For me, and I've said this enough times, rehabilitation is what I had on my shoulder in 212 when I had it rebuilt.
Yeah, I've had my shoulder rebuilt.
Well, it's good at physio, it's doing all that work yourself, that's rehab. In prison, you know, we're not rehabilitating people. Yes, people can change. People who change, it's either life-changing, families, they have a child, you know, they see something that bad that they never want to go back, or just people get fucked off. We're going back to prison, you know, with a life.
With me, I didn't have any visits, and I didn't even activate my phone account on the 8 years.
No letters, did you say?
I was writing to a few people. Yeah, I had a few letters, but I didn't tell my family when I was transferred from one jail to another. So most of the time they didn't know where I was. And like I said, I didn't activate my phone account and I didn't have any visits. That was purely to make it easier on myself because I couldn't have the distraction of the outside world because the impact of that sentence, that was a big sentence, I needed to focus on it to be able to get through it.
How many years in 6 months and crappy sentences did you do? Have you any?
Well, I've looked at me previous convictions and that. And I think it works out as about, in total, I've probably done about 12 years.
So you did 8 in one and 4 in small sentences.
6.5. I did 6.5 out of the 8.
Yeah.
And the rest is the longest sentence after that was 16 months. All the rest have been there's been quite a lot of 6-month sentences, a couple of 9 month, a few 3 month and that. And I've looked at it and it all adds up to about 12 years, which was also another thing that impacted me was getting up and seeing the first grey hair appear, you know, and by the time I got out, it was all grey, you know. So it was the prime. It was my prime I missed. It cost me my prime. Some people would say that was suitable punishment, some not. But yeah, it worked. I certainly wouldn't want to go back. I don't think I'd be able to cope. And no, yeah. The sentence worked not in a way that it fucking rehabilitated me. It just made me realise that life's short. It passes you by way too quick, and I haven't got another sentence like that in me.
So that was life changing for you then.
Yeah.
And how was your first 6 months when you got out? Are all these things at the back of your mind, or?
Well, when I got out, I had money because I'd worked outside for a year, so I had a couple of grand, about $3,000. I went straight into work for the council, so I'm now finding out that with the PTSD symptoms that I've got, it's all to do with I did things too quickly, and I've gone straight into the job too quickly. And I worked for the council 4 or 5 years, and then
How soon did you get that job after coming out?
Like, I think I got out on the Thursday and started on the Tuesday.
Explain about that, because you did say about not declaring stuff.
Yeah, I didn't declare anything to the council, but
You just applied for the job and got it?
Yeah, I shot on it because I had all the licences as well.
For the tree surgeon?
Yeah, so they was impressed by that, but by showing them all the licences, I basically revealed where I'd got them from, basically. I mean, it doesn't say that on the licences, but it's clear I'd been all around the country in a short period of time. They're not stupid. I think the head of the council, he's dead now, fortunately. I think he, old George, I think he either had a relative or a friend that was in the local police force around here, so he had communications. I think he might have been taking more than me on, who'd been...
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I think he might have been doing that and not even mentioning it to us.
Really?
Yeah, so, you know, just out of give him a chance, don't mention it to the other lads, you know.
Fair dues on him then, bless him.
The gaffer knew I've been in jail, but he's not told the other lads, you know, it's just let it be. But I'll still get a minimum wage. I didn't get a contract.
Did it help you though? Did that, you know, give you a period of settled time, you got money in your pocket?
Yeah. It got to the point where I didn't have the spare time to think about anything else because I was working.
It's so important to have some purpose in it.
Yeah. I found now that since my injury, I've gone fucking downhill.
Tell people what you did. It was on the job, wasn't it?
Yeah, no such thing as health and safety with the council. You know, they'll swing fucking mowers on ropes down it, then fly mowers. They'll tie a rope to it, and if they've got a steep hill to do, instead of going up and down the hill, they'll swing it on a rope up and down the hill and whatnot. And I fell out of a tree with a chainsaw. Nearly went into me, the chainsaw. But my shoulders, you know the ball, there's a big chunk missing out of the ball, and the socket, they've removed all the cartilage that goes all the way around, and they've put 3 metal loops in because the shoulder just keeps on dislocating all the time. So they've had to stick it in, and they've messed it up a bit, and they're not willing to do any corrective surgery. So with that, that didn't really The injury didn't impact me. It was the lack of anything to do then. I've gone from suddenly being busy 7 days a week to boom, sat in the house.
It's his purpose. It's his purpose.
And that's when my fucking head started going.
It is having purpose. Everything. If you applied the word purpose rather than rehabilitation to jail,
Yeah.
you know,
it's just a fancy political label, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. I've not had a few ding dongs because I didn't argue, but people who've come back at me hard when I've said we're not rehabilitating people. What? You know, they get angry. People can't shit. No. If you know prison, right? Long-term prison. I'm now meeting people. There is people who've been on special units, where it's changed their behaviour and that who needed it. You know, people who were verging on, I don't know, being serial killers or whatever.
Yeah.
However, the vast majority, you're minding people, aren't you? You know, it's a minding job. Prison officer, you're minding them. You know, when they get out after the last sentence, Ali, if he's out now, ever sees this, yeah, he was a lad. We had acquaintances in Sheffield. Our paths will have crossed unknowingly. But, you know, he got a big sentence in criminality and he said his family, when I get out this time, is Samworth. You know, my wife's still there, my family will support me. If I go back, that's it. That was his motivation. If I go back, you know, I've done. But unless people have got something, Frank, again, going back to Frank, with a full thickness burn.
Yeah.
I said, you just said it's my life. It's my life. I'm going to catch. He's part of my career, being in prison. And he will definitely be, as long as he's on this planet, he'll be involved in criminality as long as. And it don't matter what anyone says, you know. I said to him, so if I give you 1,000 a week, he said, it's the buzz for me. People never understand.
See, it was not a buzz for me. It was an escape from reality. The pain of reality. It was an escape. It wasn't a buzz. No, it wasn't a buzz. It was hiding. And someone's commented about the weed. I actually agree with them.
What did he say? I saw something about weed not helping you or something.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't fucking. Weed is a lot stronger these days than it used to be.
I've said this, right. So back in the day, I hate that word. If you look 80s, probably not into 90s. I would say 80s. Smoking red leb.
Yeah, resin.
Yeah, resin, bit of sensei when you could get it, you know. Yeah, squidgy black. Yeah, so you'd have a smoke with a few beers.
Yeah.
You would relax, chill out, have a bit of a giggle and get the munchies.
Yeah.
Some of this shit now...
It's that strong that there's no relaxing. You go straight to the stage of paranoia.
I've seen lads who... heroin addicts. One lad in particular... his name just has escaped me. The last time I saw him, he went to Ashworth Hospital. Heroin addict for years. In and out of prison. One of them likeable chaps. However, you wouldn't want to fight him. He was known as an old bastard. But he'd always been on gear. He started smoking, skunk, whatever you want to call it, heavy.
It's actually getting stronger still.
Well, he come in. I remember him for an addict this, yeah. Bradders, my manager, were in cell. He is fucking... he's out there with paranoia, psychosis, the lot. Bucket of diazepam to try and calm him down. Yeah, boom. Wouldn't take it. Wouldn't take anything.
Well, I thought he tried poisoning.
You know, he's been an addict for 20 years on heroin, and now he's fucked. He went to Ashworth High School Hospital.
What through?
Smoking weed all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's not what I smoked 30 odd years ago, is it?
No. It's far more potent, and I don't know. Maybe the genetics have changed in it all. I don't know, but I smoke weed for pain relief mainly. It does help with pain relief. It really does help with pain relief.
Are you smoking it with tobacco, or are you smoking
with tobacco, unfortunately. A year ago, I did quit smoking, and I quit smoking weed as well. I need to get back to that frame of mind. But yeah, whoever said it, they're absolutely right.